699 Saint Werburgh, Anglo Saxon Princess, and patron saint of Chester, England, dies at about 50 year of death, cited as 700 in some sources, exact birth date uncertain. 865 Ansgar, German Catholic archbishop and saint, dies at 63. 994 William Roman IV, Duke of Aquitaine 963-990, known as Fierebrace proud arm, dies at about 56. In 1014 Sweyn Forkbeard, Viking King of Denmark 986-1014, Norway 999-1000-1014, and first Viking King of England 1013-14, dies at about 54, born circa 960. In 1116 King Coloman of Hungary 1095-1116 b. 1070. English son of King Edward Roman III, first Duke of Lancaster, statesman, and founder of the English royal House of Lancaster, dies at 58. In 1428 Ashikaga Yoshimochi, 4th Japanese SH gun of the Ashikaga shogunate 1394-1423, dies at 41. In 1451 Murad II, Sultan of Turkey 1421-51, dies. German inventor movable-type printing press, dies at about 70. Birth date c. 1400. In 1520 Sten Sture the Younger, Swedish nobleman and Regent of Sweden 1512-20, dies at about 26. In 1536 Garcia de Resende, Portuguese writer and publisher Cancioneiro Geral, dies b. 1470. In 1558 Alfonsus de Castro, Spanish theologist, Council of Trent, dies. In 1566 George Cassander, Flemish theologian b. 1513. In 1602 Paulus Melissus, German humanist Neo-Latin writer, translator, diplomat, and composer, dies at 62. In 1669 Katharina Questiers, Dutch poet, friend of abandoned child, dies at 31. In 1679 Jan Havik Steen, Dutch painter, St. Nicolaas Feast, dies at 53. In 1697 Esjau Gaps, Frisian sailor, dies buried on Dirk Hartog Island. In 1700 Diogo Dars Melk S, Portuguese composer of sacred polyphonic music, dies at 61. In 1715 Gottfried Voplius, German Lutheran scholar and hymn writer, dies at 70. In 1737 Tommaso Sever, Italian mathematician b. 1648. In 1748 Henry Madden, French composer, dies at 49. In 1803 Pedro Rodriguez de Campomanes, 1st Count of Campomanes, Spanish economist and politician, dies at 79. In 1813 Samuel Ashe, American 9th Governor of North Carolina 1795-8, dies at 87. In 1814 Jan Anton N. Kola, Czech organist and composer, dies at 75. In 1832 George Crabbe, English poet, everlasting mercy, dies at 77. In 1846 Joseph Weigel, German-Austrian composer, La Principessa di Amalfi, Emmeline, and conductor, dies at 79. In 1862 Jean-Baptiste Biot, French physicist Biot Savart Law, dies at 87. In 1864 Jariner Lee, African-American traveling minister, first woman preacher in African Methodist Episcopal Church, dies at 80. In 1866 Fran Xavier Gano, French-Canadian notary, poet, and historian, Histoire du Canada, History of Canada, dies at 56. In 1871 Thomas William Robertson, British playwright, cast, society, dies at 42. In 1874 William Charles Lunalilo, 6th monarch of the Kingdom of Hawaii 1873-74, dies of tuberculosis at 39. In 1875 Everharters Johannes Potgieter, Dutch writer Lietekens van Bantico, dies at 66. In 1876 Gino Capponi, Italian Marquis, literary and Premier of Toscane, dies at 83. In 1881 John Good, British ornithologist and bird artist, dies at 76. In 1882 Guglielmo Quarenghi, Italian composer and cellist, dies at 55. In 1882, Mary Elizabeth Lange, Cuban-American educator, Catholic nun, and co-founder of the Oblate Sisters of Providence, the first African-American Catholic religious order, dies at about 92, birth date uncertain, c. 1769. In 1889, Belle Maribel Shirley, American outlaw Wild West, murdered at 40. In 1890, c. H. D. Buys Ballot, Dutch meteorologist Buys Ballot S. Law, dies at 72. American abolitionist and writer American Slavery as It Is, Testimony of 1,000 Witnesses, dies at 91. In 1896, Jane Wilder, Irish poet, nationalist and mother of Oscar Wilde, dies at 74. In 1900, Otakar Novosek, Austro-Hungarian composer Perpetual Motion, dies at 33. In 1900, William W. Averill, American Major General Union Army, dies at 67. In 1902, Sir C. Franzen van der Put, Dutch PM 1866, dies at 79. In 1903, Friedrich Kitticher, German-American Reform Movement composer, dies at 59. In 1909, Johann Georg Herzog, German composer and organist, dies at 86. American astronomer and pioneered American spectroscopist, dies at 72. In 1919, Maria Theresa of Austria-Est, Queen of Bavaria, dies at 69. In 1921, Max Wilhelm Zach, Polish-American violinist and conductor, Boston Symphony 1896-1907, St. Louis Symphony, 1907-21, dies at 56. In 1922, Christian R. de Wet, South African rebel leader, politician and general in the Boer War, dies at 67. In 1922, John Butler Yeats, Irish painter and father of W.B. Yeats, dies at 82. In 1929, Agner Krupp Erlang, Danish scientist and engineer known for his work on queuing theory, dies at 51. In 1931, Hans Schardt, Swiss geologist, dies at 72. In 1935, Hugo Junkers, German engineer and aircraft designer, dies at 76. In 1936, Sophia of Schönberg-Waldenburg, Princess of Albania, wife of Prince William of Wied, dies at 50. In 1937, Marija Leko, Latvian film actress B. 1887. In 1943, Alexander Good, American U.S. Navy chaplain and rabbi. The 4 chaplains drowns in the sinking of the Dorchester at 31-1. In 1943, Clark Poling, American U.S. Army chaplain and Protestant minister. The 4 chaplains drowns in the sinking of the Dorchester at 30-1. In 1943, George Fox, American U.S. Army chaplain and Methodist minister. The 4 chaplains drowns in the sinking of the Dorchester at 42-1. In 1943, John Washington, American U.S. Army chaplain and Catholic priest. The 4 chaplains drowns in the sinking of the Dorchester at 34-1. In 1945, Jos Roll, Mexican composer, dies at 61. In 1945, Roland Freisler, German Nazi judge, July 20th plotter case and politician, dies at 51. In 1947, Mark Mitcher, American naval commander, WW2 Task Force 58 in the Pacific, dies at 60.